आज़ादी का 75वां अमृत महोत्सव मनाया जा रहा है और आज हम विज्ञान भवन में हैं, जहां पर 15वां सिविल सेवा दिवस 2 दिन के प्रोग्राम के अनुसार यहां पर डॉक्टर जितेंद्र सिंह जी, मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट इंडिपेंडेंट चार्ज, उन्होंने आज यहां प्रदर्शनी का उद्घाटन किया। आइए हम आपको ले चलते हैं कि किस तरह से हमारा देश जो है डिजिटल इंडिया बनता जा रहा है और उन तरक्की की राहों में है जहां पर हमें बहुत पहले होना चाहिए था। लेकिन जब से मोदी जी सत्ता में आए हैं, उन्होंने देश को बहुत ऊंचाइयों पर लाने का भरपूर प्रयास किया है। आइए हम उनके साथ मिलकर देश को आगे बढ़ाएं।
Secretaries to Government of India, Chief Secretaries, Additional Chief Secretaries, Principal Secretaries of States, distinguished civil servants, Joint Secretary DRPG, award winners, ladies and gentlemen. It's my privilege to welcome you all to the 15th Civil Service Day celebrations which are starting today. At the outset, I would like to extend a warm and hearty welcome to Minister of Pensions and Minister of State in the Prime Minister's office, Dr. Jitendra to the inaugural session, and thank him for his constant support and guidance in all our initiatives. I welcome Cabinet Secretary Shri Narendra, who has been a great source of strength and guided us in the organization of the 15th Civil Services Day and played a leadership role in implementation of the scheme for Prime Minister's Awards for Excellence in Public Administration 2021. I welcome all civil servants who are joining us today through web rooms across the states, union territories and districts. Civil Services Day 2022 is being celebrated in Vigyan Bhavan after 2018. On this occasion, I welcome the award winners under the 2019 and 2020 scheme for PM's Awards for Excellence in Public Administration, in addition to the 2021 award winners. The theme for this year's Civil Services Day is Vision India 2047, bringing citizens and government closer. The focus is on young civil servants who will govern India in 2047. On this occasion, we draw inspiration from the vision and determination of Sardar Patel of 2 plenary sessions and 4 breakaway sessions in which the top leadership of India and young officers who have shown outstanding performance would be addressing the sessions. The theme of plenary session 1 is Vision India 2047 Governance. Digital transformation of governance necessitates a coordinated culture and technology shift in workforce. Agile governments modernize with times, innovate faster to meet citizen demands and expectations. In response to the Honorable Prime Minister's call for Atmanirbhar Bharat, the nation has sought to cut import dependence, boost exports and promote domestic manufacturing. The 4 breakaway sessions are on the themes PM Gati Shakti, digital payments, good governance through PM Swanidhi Yojana, One District, One Product scheme, and the Aspirational District program with a saturation approach. Collectively, the breakaway sessions will discuss the essential policy areas which will shape India's future governance model. The Honorable Prime Minister will address the valedictory session and confer the awards on April 21, 2022. The details of the awards are present in the folders provided to each guest. The Honorable Prime Minister personally devoted a considerable amount of time to restructuring of the scheme. There are 6 categories under this scheme in which 16 awards will be presented. 715 districts participated in the scheme and 2,105 nominations were received. The nominations were screened at 3 stages by screening committees chaired by additional secretaries and
ladies and gentlemen. It is after a gap of 3 years that we are celebrating the Civil Services Day the way we used to. Tomorrow, on the Civil Services Day, in the valedictory session, the Prime Minister will give away the awards for excellence and will address us. We could not have this event in 2019 due to general elections, and then for the next 2 years due to COVID-19. So it is a matter of great happiness that we are meeting here today. And I feel absolutely privileged to be here and to have this opportunity to speak. COVID-19 has tested our systems to the most extreme degree. As a nation, we have always risen to the challenge whenever there was a crisis. And our civil services have also demonstrated remarkable ability to respond to crisis situations. However, COVID-19 was and continues to be a challenge of unprecedented magnitude. And I will be failing in my duty if I do not today express my deep appreciation of the tireless efforts put in by civil servants across the country at all levels, city, districts, state governments, and ministries there, to deal with this pandemic under the most trying circumstances, often in the face of personal risk and personal suffering. We also lost several dear colleagues who were working till the very end, even when they were themselves battling the disease. Important issues related to national priorities would be discussed in this conference, and civil servants across ministries, across seniorities and services, and practitioners in the field and eminent experts would have the opportunity to share their knowledge and experiences. Our endeavor should be that practical and implementable recommendations emerge from these deliberations, which can be shared with the central ministries, with state governments, and with district offices for being adopted and implemented so that our programs, our flagship missions, and our policies can be suitably recalibrated, refined, and improved so that our outcomes and our delivery also improve, because that is our ultimate objective. In his address to the nation on 15th August last year, Prime Minister outlined a vision for India at 2047. It's an exercise in long-term thinking and long-term planning, and in fact should not be constrained by the existing policy framework or the existing regulatory structures. We have requested the secretaries groups to get suggestions and feedbacks from the states, from officers in the field, from young officers, where we should be in 2047 and how to reach there. Another important topic being discussed today is Atmanirbhar Bharat with focus on exports. These deliberations will be useful for evolving the roadmap for building indigenous capabilities, for creating a conducive policy and regulatory framework for large-scale manufacturing, and harnessing the full potential for exports of our products in states and districts across the country. Gati Shakti is a transformational initiative for developing and implementing a national master plan for multimodal connectivity, for ensuring coordinated planning and execution, to build state-of-art infrastructure, to bring down logistics costs, and to improve our competitiveness. The success of each of these initiatives depends on our willingness and ability to internalize these concepts and to convert them into actionable points, and on sustained efforts by all of us to implement. Other sessions include the One District, One Product scheme, moving towards saturation in aspirational districts, and PM Swanidhi Yojana, and the transformational journey of aspirational districts has now in the next stage. Saturation approach should ensure that the full complement of all government schemes reaches every individual in these districts. The One District, One Product scheme has started producing results in terms of improved yields and enhancing farmers' incomes. I have observed in the course of scrutiny of nominations for the PM's Award for Excellence in Public Administration, for example, of Makhana in the Bhanga district in Bihar, and of black rice in Siddharthnagar district in UP. Even in remote regions like Ladakh, the impact of One District, One Product scheme has been felt with increased yields of apricot and sea buckthorn. The district collectors who have made these changes possible will be sharing their experiences in the forthcoming session. The PM Swanidhi Yojana has also resulted in improving the incomes of street vendors. More importantly, it has given them a new sense of dignity and security by integrating them with the formal economy and by giving them secure places in the vending zones. Civil Services Day is a day of celebration and at the same time a day for reflection and introspection. Expectations from civil servants, especially the young civil servants, are huge. We must equip ourselves to meet these expectations. We need to constantly learn, innovate, and adapt to be able to do justice to these expectations. Government has recently launched Mission Karmyogi and the iGot platform. This is an extremely useful digital platform. It is still a work in progress. It is designed to help officers update their knowledge, learn role-specific skills and competencies at their convenience and from the best resources in the world, anywhere, anytime. I would encourage all colleagues, particularly younger colleagues, to take full advantage of this platform. Besides job-specific competencies, we need to be conscious of the larger context of our actions and of the overarching goals and priorities, and our role in accomplishing them. Over the last few years, major reforms have been implemented in several areas of governance. Government-citizen interface has become easier. Many processes have become online. These have resulted in remarkable improvement in the ease of doing business. The Prime Minister has now enlarged the scope of the exercise to ease of living. We should make it our mission to make life easier for citizens by reducing the burden of unnecessary compliances, by reducing their dependence on government. We need to rethink the role of government in the economy and in the lives of people at large. With the active involvement of ministries and states, a great deal of work has been done in this regard in the last 2 years. Around 25,000 compliances have been either removed altogether or radically streamlined, simplified. Many processes have been radically overhauled. New guidelines issued by the Department of Telecom, for example, have made work from home or work from anywhere in India possible without any hassle. Business process outsourcing companies or other service providers now do not require any registration, nor do they require to furnish any PAN card. Collecting, storing, publishing, disseminating geospatial data used to require multiple approvals from multiple agencies. The Department of Science and Technology's new guidelines have done away with the need for any approval or any license. The new drone rules promulgated by the Ministry of Civil Aviation have made it easy to manufacture drones in India and to use them for a range of economic and commercial activities. These are just some of the examples of the enormous amount of work which has been done by our colleagues in different ministries and in state governments. But reducing compliance burden will have to be a continuous process so that people can devote their time and energy to productive work. The risk of imprisonment for actions or omissions that are not fraudulent or the outcome of malafide intent is a huge problem for citizens, for private sector, creating opportunities for harassment and rent seeking. Under Prime Minister's directions, we are now focusing on decriminalization of such minor offences and violations. This work needs to be taken up as a mission by each one of us. At the heart of all these initiatives is the concept of trust-based governance, that is, having faith in citizens. I think we all need to internalize this concept in our day-to-day work. If we want to remain relevant, we must focus on delivery, on improving our capabilities and our skills, and above all, on maintaining the highest traditions of civil service in our work and in our conduct. I hope all of us will take keen interest in and actively participate in various sessions. I extend my warm greetings to everyone. Thank you. Jai.
Sometimes we don't realize this. As Mr. Goiba was mentioning, the Civil Services Day is being held after about 2 or 3 years. But I think we can take pride in realizing that in the last 7-8 years, ever since Mr. Modi took over as the Prime Minister, we have actually succeeded in giving it a new kind of a format and a new outlook. And the first Civil Services Day, which was addressed by Sardar Patel in 1948 on the same day, that was 21st of April. And of course, that was part of legacy because DOPD at that time was part of the Home Ministry, and therefore the Home Minister had to address that before it later on became a part of the Prime Ministerial charge. And since then, for the almost 6 decades, it was, of course, a very grand affair, being sought after. But without sounding impolite, I would say it was more of a reunion happening. We would have an event for half a day, when all the officers would also get together, the past, present, the superannuated, the serving, and then a chakonsa batch, 60 batch, 65 batch, so that kind of sessions. And give it a kind of a theme for every year, and then sub-themes for each of these sessions, which are relevant to the contemporary India, also relevant to the priorities of the government in place, also relevant to the flagship programs of the government. And I'm glad that, of course, in the beginning I was a little apprehensive how the senior bureaucrats would react. But I'm glad that they have cooperated because we live to learn, and the knowledge expansion, or what we say in the scientific term, the doubling of knowledge is happening so fast that it's not easy to keep pace. And as was being mentioned by Srinivas on the very first Civil Services Day, Sardar Patel said that I quote, "Your predecessors were brought up in the tradition in which they kept themselves aloof from the common run of the people. And it will be your bounden duty to treat the common man of India as your own." Unquote. But the matter of fact is that even before Sardar Patel had finished speaking this sentence, the role of the civil servant had already changed. And in fact, it changed on the midnight of 1947, 15th of August. The collector came to be known as District Development Commissioner. The nomenclature itself was symbolic of the change that was happening, which may not have been because he was supposed to collect revenue for the British Empire and also to impose the writ of empire. Books were written, literature written, short stories written, pictures made, other things. Now he was district. He was supposed to collect revenue, generate revenue for a welfare state. Therefore, I think it's all the more necessary that an occasion like this becomes also a very important occasion for a serious introspection about how we move from here and where do we move. And many of us are fond of saying, though rightly so, that a civil services is dedicated to common man, and that is the ultimate goal. All of us say so. I think all those who spoke before me will say this over the day also. But actually it means more than what is being said. We have no option. At the risk of sounding little unauthorized, we have no option but to be citizen friendly. Because I can foresee times happening when citizen is going to take over a lot much of governance. And therefore, with a tremendous foresight, Prime Minister, soon after he took over on the 26th of May 2014, he gave us the mantra, maximum governance, minimum government. I don't know how much we would have realized the seriousness of this, but this is going to happen. I think a day is coming. The governance is going to be looked after by governments, by the people who govern themselves. And that is why when I was discussing with Srinivas, and I said we should have the theme of Vision 2047, and we should have a committee constituted to prepare a document. And the first two presentations, I was not very much, I won't say impressed because I have no entitlement to be impressed or not, but I look forward to be educated every day. So I try to make this point that unfortunately we are still looking at 2047 through the prism of 2022. And maybe in 2047 the civil services may lose their relevance. The artificial intelligence may take over in a big way. The citizen may take over. So we first need to have indices. Like if you go back 25 years back from now, that was exactly 1997. What was revolutionary at that time? You had the courier service, revolutionized it. The entire dark system collapsed. It was a new revolution and a new source of livelihood. Where is it now? You have STD booths, people making livelihood. And being in political public life, I remember people would come to the elected representatives, साहब एक STD का लाइसेंस दिलवा दीजिए, औलाद पल जाएगी, बच्चे पल जाएंगे, लेकिन बच्चों के पलने से पहले STD बूथ बंद हो गए. You see how fast this 25 years runs, and now the pace is even faster. You had those small cassettes, what is that, T-series, you would carry home with a great one. Where is all that gone? So it's difficult actually because we look at the things from our perspective. So I think it's a very difficult task actually which we have taken upon ourselves. But when the Prime Minister says perform, reform and transform, the same mantra will be underlined throughout where we go. And I'm glad that over the last 8 years, much headway has been made which was actually waiting to happen. As Mr. Goiba rightly mentioned, the e-office thing, and in the context of COVID. I think the greatest test for the e-office experiment was the COVID times. At least in this ministry, the Ministry of Personnel, we did not allow the work to be interrupted even for a single day. And even during the lockdown, since I used to virtually speak to each of the officers, because we had that 50% thing. So those sitting at home, some of them not well, some of them positive, sometimes not working. So I still remember, and I very fondly keep narrating, one of the junior officers said the new dictum, sir, should be minimum attendance, maximum output. Because the officers working from home were working even on weekends, on Saturdays, Sundays, festivals. They had got out, they had liberated themselves from that mindset. कि 10 से 5 तक काम करना, बीच में लंच ब्रेक. Like Kushwant Singh wrote that famous short story. 10 बजे दौड़ते दौड़ते पहुंचे, बस लेट होगी, 11 बजे पहुंचे, अखबार नहीं पढ़ सकी, 11:30 बज गए, चाय पी, 12 बज गए, इतनी देर में लंच ब्रेक होगी. जब तक वापस आए तो किसी ने कहा DOPT का होम मिनिस्ट्री के साथ हॉकी का मैच चल रहा है, तो आप यहाँ बैठे हैं, तो वहाँ चले गए मैच खेलने. और खेलते खेलते 7 बज गए. जब वापस आए थके हारे खटिया पर बैठे, तो वो आई और बोली कि साहब क्यों इतना काम करते हो, कितनी बार कहा. तो उधर भगवान तुम्हें क्या पता, भारत सरकार ऐसी चलती है. So this is, I think, a liberation of the mindset that has happened thanks to Prime Minister Modi. He could foresee the merit of his e-work even before we were actually confronted with this kind of a problem. And I'm glad to say that the other ministry, donor, where I was for almost 7 years, we were the first to go inline. Nearly 6 years ago, because we realized that we had to remain connected to Shillong where we had the NEC headquarters. Similarly, this is also a government, I'm saying so because being a researcher and a scientific mind, we keep thinking while moving around. Very often this is not realized. Often each government, each politician, each leader, each officer takes pride in narrating. मैंने ये कानून लाया, आप भी रिटायरमेंट के बाद जब सुबह सैर करते हैं, मेरे ज़माने में ये हुआ था, प्रिवेंशन ऑफ करप्शन एक्ट मैंने लाया था, फिर मैंने ऐसे किया, फिर मैंने कहता है you take lot of, you enjoy narrating your anecdote, regardless of whether the others are interested or not. But we do so, that's a human nature. This is a government which would take pride in having said that we did away with many rules. 1,500 rules we have done away. Within weeks after taking over in 2014, we did away with that gastric attestation. And I placed before the seniors, I said, this is something which, the kind of background that we come from. When we used to be getting into class 9 or 10, we didn't know where to look for a gastric officer. For me, miles together, you didn't have access. And I remember when I was in class 11, I had to shell out ₹5, which I also didn't have, somebody else paid for. Because a good Samaritan came, he said, give me all your certificates, I'll get them attested. I know where the gastric officer lives. But we didn't know whether he has 2 noses or 3 years, what kind of, whose guest, what he looks like. And I used to myself sit on the Friday. And when for a couple of consecutive weeks, she came back with 98%, having sat till 2 o'clock, I told her, ma'am, I think you'll have to spend full night to achieve 100%. Because till 3 o'clock you achieve only 90. So that kind of diligence dedication has gone into this. And now, before I conclude, I think what we have before us, as Prime Minister has always been saying this, Amrit Mahakal and 75 years, and that is the first session dedicated to 2047. I think when we are in the process of preparing the document, we also would have to keep in mind our focus on those who have active 25 years to put in, because they are going to be the architects of Century India. Many of us may not be around at that time because now the 70% of the population below in India, we are all in the minority, although market provides all kinds of colors, so you can choose to look how old you want. But the matter of fact is that we will have to focus on those who are there to contribute in the civil services actively for next 25 years. And our contribution of this generation could be in the form of building up their capacity. So that even if we are not playing an active role, we are not around at that time, we would have the satisfaction of saying, look here, we also contributed in building the capacity of the seniors like Mr. Koeva and others. And they would in turn have the privilege of telling their children, grandchildren, look here, I was the Secretary DOPT when India observed 100 years of its independence. So it's that kind of a teamwork which I have. When we say and suggested to Mr. Srinivas, we would also have a team which will be working in that direction. Thank you very much, and I'm sure the sessions that would follow would give us a good take-home message. Thank you.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद और आभार माननीय आपकी प्रेरणा के लिए। और अब हम निवेदन करते हैं जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिफॉर्म्स एंड पब्लिक रिफॉर्म्स से श्री NBS राजपूत आपसे की कृपया आभार प्रकट करें।
To thank the Honorable Minister of State, Ministry of Personnel, Public Relations and Pensions, Dr. Jitendra ji, for his kind and inspiring message and his continuous support and guidance for this event. I thank you, sir, for inaugurating the revision, supervising exemplary execution of the different schemes and programs. No word can suffice to adequately thank the respected Cabinet Secretary Shri Rajiv Gauba for guidance, his kind words and support that has extended for the process both for the Prime Minister Awards and Civil Service Day celebration. It is my pleasure to thank Secretary Deputy P.K. Tripathi ji for his kind presence and support for the celebrations. It is my pleasant duty to thank our Secretary DRP ji, Shri Vishnu ji, for his encouragement, support and continuous guidance for the journey to this day. Thanks to all the respected secretaries and senior officers of the Government of India and members of various committees to screen and scrutinize the unprecedented number of applications received for the awards. Thanks to those officers who went all over the country for the sports studies for shortlisted initiatives. Thanks to all those who are a part of this today's proceedings as panelists, repertoire and participants. Thanks are due to all DMs, DCs, award winners for the states, UTs and organizations who not only enthusiastically participate in the awards process but also tirelessly work for the quality programs and schemes. I thank all my seniors and colleagues who I cannot name individually for their kind support and guidance. I thank all my colleagues in DRPG, our knowledge partner Deloitte, NICT, and all the stakeholders and agencies who have been involved in this exercise for the last several months.
Growth in India will suffer very hugely. So this is an area which perhaps we are not discussing in this room, but for Vision 2047, for every Indian citizen, that should also be a vision.
Presently, I am Collector Kobrathar. I just have a quick couple of points. One was a humble request to CEO Niti Aayog, sir. So often as collectors in the field, we tend to reinvent the wheel, sir. So is it possible from Niti Aayog to have some data repository and hand-holding, sir, for replication of best practices? A, not only for aspirational districts, for all districts, sir. B, could we have some reliable edtech platforms, sir, for the training of our mid and frontline workers, because that is what we struggle with. And thirdly, sir, some kind of GIS mapping system for our facilities, which would enable us to find out which facility is located how far from habitations, and it would enable us to usher in saturation, sir. Thank you, sir. And
of Amrit Kaal. quarter-century period in which India must strive to assume the status of a global power that caters to domestic and global needs. A power which is built upon our will interfere needlessly in the lives of the people. We need to create an enabling governance model to achieve those objectives. The work on vision document has been started. 10 sectoral groups of secretaries have been assigned the task to prepare the blueprint of Vision 2047 with timelines and milestones.
Really quite engaging, and we would definitely like to be benefited from your views. However, we are constrained with the time. So I believe, okay, you make your point, but this would be the last one. We'll request everyone who has anything to contribute, please mail us and write to us. We would certainly take it forward.
ध्यान दिलाना चाह रहा हूँ सर, हम अगर 2047 के विजन की बात कर रहे हैं तो हमें रूरल इंडिया के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और उसके ह्यूमन रिसोर्स पे भी ध्यान देना होगा सर, और उसके ह्यूमन को रिसोर्स में कन्वर्ट करने के लिए खासतौर से जो हमारे रूरल यूथ है उनका स्किल अपग्रेडेशन किया जाना भी आवश्यक है, ताकि उनका इंडियन इकोनॉमी में कंट्रीब्यूशन हो, जीडीपी में कंट्रीब्यूशन हो, तभी हम लोग अपने जीडीपी के दर को बहुत तेज गति से आगे ले जा पाएंगे सर। थैंक यू सर।
Minister, to kindly give the concluding remarks.
I greatly appreciate the suggestion made by the young collector from Assam on MMR and IMR and the SDG goals, both of which SDG goals, a lot of work has been done by Niti Aayog state by state by state, and we do this SDG ranking, etc. We have in fact gone very deep into use the power of data and ranking to do your block ranking, etc.
We're carrying down to the block level.
Yeah, block level. And that the Prime Minister has actually said that many states have actually taken this forward, UP and many states. So those of you and our dashboard champions of change has given that delegated authority to the collectors to use that power, and we can give you the access to that dashboard. You can do that. There have been some very good suggestion was made by DOLR Joint Secretary relating to climate change, and I mentioned that this will be a very key challenge on how to decarbonize hard to abate sectors like refinery, long distance transport, steel, fertilizer, etc. And how quickly we are able to use renewable energy to convert water into green hydrogen, because that will be the fastest route to bring in clean energy in India. It will be a challenge. Very good suggestions. Mr. Sanjeev Mittal made the suggestion of public versus private and safe and secure order. In fact, wherever there is law and order, in private sector we go there only. So it's very clear that there is a very direct correlationship between good criminal justice system, a good law and order system, and good private sector investment. And therefore, it's critical that there is good law and order, and I think our colleagues from the IPS have to play a very critical and a significant role in that. On infrastructure sector, there was the issue about we are very good at, as a very relevant point, we are very good at asset creation through the government, extremely poor at operation and maintenance. Every asset that we create, we go and see after 3 to 4 years, it's in very poor condition. And that is why it's very important that when contracts are structured. Why we are advocating PPP is because if you look at the construction of airports in Delhi and Mumbai versus airports made by Airport Authority of India in Chennai and in Calcutta, you see the quality difference in terms of design, vision, operation, maintenance, everything. And that is why it's very important to structure PPP projects which give you 30-35 years of operation and maintenance by the private sector. And actually, I do not envisage that by 2047 government will be in the business of either doing business. There should be no public sector at all by 2047, to my mind. The government has already said that There will be public sector in 4 key strategic areas, by the cabinet has set this. But I personally feel that those strategic areas will be also very few and far between, like space and atomic in space. Also, we have private sector advocated very vigorously now through NSIL, and atomic areas as the small modular reactors which are making big headway. So I think it's very important, and I reiterate the DC from Assam, Kokragar, Nali made several points, and I can assure you that we'll be very happy. We have a repository of best practices. It's digitally available. We'll share it with all the collectors. We'll be very happy to work with GS mapping system. In fact, it will be an extension of what we are doing. And we will be very happy to help you in everything that you said. Niti will handhold you for everything. We are willing to handhold every state, which we do that on a regular basis. We are willing to handhold every. And the last point that was made was about 2047 and rural development. Very important, very critical. Somebody had raised the issue of urbanization. Whether we like it or not, India is going to have very rapid pace of urbanization. Almost 500 million people will get into the process of urbanization in the next 3 to 4 decades. Therefore, the challenge is that we should not do unplanned, unsustainable urbanization, which is what is happening today in India. Do plan, as Subbu had said, do big thinking on that. And that would require visionary approach of how do you manage, how do you do transit-oriented development, how do you do vertical development on the back of TOD, and so on. There's a whole challenge of census towns in India. There are almost 3,867 census towns in India, which are actually, as per census, are urban areas, but states treat them as rural areas simply because they get money from Manrega and Pradhan Mantri.
It's been quite a thought-provoking interaction. But if you permit, I think we need to go a little deeper. It's not easy to look at 2047. I think we are taking a very simplistic view. We are talking as if we are all now, sitting down here to plan the 5-year plan for 2047 without even being able to realize what it is going to be. Hello? But yeah, if we try to look back at 1947 and then try to track the journey, maybe we might get the extent and scale of what it's going to be. And to that extent, it's been a remarkable journey. The very fact that we have survived as an independent nation, proving the prophets of doom wrong. Nobody believed that, nobody trusted that. The leader of opposition in the House of Commons, Mr. Jitendra, had gone to the extent of saying that in 50 years we'll be going back to the barbaric age. We didn't. Our neighbors who achieved freedom simultaneously did so. In every sphere of life. And our governance has played a major role in that. Our civil servant is the instrument, the tool of good governance, which has a bearing on everything else. So I think I would rather try to strike an optimistic note and look at it. Hello. And also, we tend to easily forget that 75 years is a very small age in the life of a nation. Hello. Again, the contradiction is that when you look at 75 years, you look from your chronology of age, the mortal chronology. Nutrition is therapeutics, it is not prophylaxis. And I'll give you a small example. Just visit any hospital, beginning from AIMS to Sub-District Hospital to any dispensary. You'll have fruit stalls outside the hospital. And whenever you visit an ailing person, you carry 1 dozen apple or some oranges, as if it is meant only when you fall sick. So you have to consume fruit only when you fall sick, not otherwise. So that social milieu which has over the years conditioned our minds also has a bearing on this. Similarly, I give you another example of the kind of manner in which we sometimes tend to. Professor Juniorwala was referring to the institutions, rightly so we express concern that we should have quality institutions. Now, the fallacy has been at two levels. We have compromised quality for quantity. Though it may not be correct to say, but his own institute, which was known as one of the 5, is now become one of the 25. I can't even name the others. So we have tinkered with for reasons other than academics. These are extra academic reasons which motivated us to indulge in quantifying. Maybe sometimes the political reasons, sometimes public demand. Because these are certain things which go hand in hand in a democratic setup. But the democracy also evolves in course of time. If I didn't have students from India, my PhD was closed. So when he left, I asked the other person, I said, was it a compliment or supportive me? I said, because Indians go there to fetch a trophy. So that has to evolve. The quantity, it can't happen in isolation. No, I'll do this, I'll do this, collector will do this, Niti Ayog will do this, hand holding. You have to move as a whole. Whole of government means whole of society. In return, a person will go for a PhD only if he or she has decided to devote the rest of his or her life to that subject. Either you come out with something miraculous and secure a Nobel Prize and leave a legacy for others to carry forward the research. Here, you go, get a PhD in computer science, come back and become a scientist or a secretary in biotechnology. I have a number of examples I can name also. I don't wish to. So your degree has nothing to do with the kind of job that you have taken. So all these things will evolve in course of time. But notwithstanding all this, I think what is remarkable is, like Hippocrates once said in the context of medicine, the most miracle when he said there's so many diseases not still amenable to treatment. He said it's the most remarkable thing is the human being is still able to survive in spite of all the hostilities around him. So I think notwithstanding everything else, the most remarkable thing is that the journey has been always on the ascent, India's graph. And I think the best personification of that is the sector which is being represented by Somnath. Option, this demarcation, mind you, even before 2047, the demarcation is going to get over. This PPP is going to be thing of the past. It all has to be collected, otherwise we can't survive. There has to be a larger integration, academia, industry, research and science. And as far as Somnath's area is concerned, actually what is happening is also lack of awareness about technology, which I think the collectors can help us. Many of the ministries are not aware of what we have. Like the other day I was sitting in Jal Shakti Ministry, they said, we have heard in Israel we have a technology to reuse the sewage water. I said, we have already installed a plant in Moti Bagh, one of these cities. Now they are taken. Heli-wall technology we introduced in Rajasthan because we educated them. So you don't have to dig the well and then this is what we meant for the collectors. Gone are the days when you used to dig a well and then find out whether what is the money would go waste, the manpower would waste. Now we have camera-borne helicopters who can get what is there. So all these things, I think this is new innovation which drone farming is something that the collectors are talking strictly from the mandate of the collectors that they can do. And the agriculturers will come forward with a lot of enthusiasm. The single journey of single round of a tractor, the drone can simultaneously do irrigation, do pesticide, do nutrients, saves money, saves time. And the other issue which came up, I think, was VVR made a good point. He said, overwork. Actually, India में भी fashion है overtime. So you have to work overtime. So overtime fetches more money, fetches more shabashi. And as the story I narrated in the morning, घर जाके सेवा भी हो जाती है, जो बहुत थक गया है. So that all is in the mind. So unless if we have a good time management and have a focused approach, and in fact, in private sector, way back, because I have been in the advisory so many, in I think the 90s, after the mid-90s, we gave up the attendance mark. we still have to, ask you to do biometrics. It's all part of governance. Why do we have to ensure that you have biometrics? Why every morning 9:30 you have to show your palm there? Because we don't trust you. No, I'm telling you honestly. I was amazed. In 1998 or so, I was part of one of the corporate advisory. Nothing of that sort. In the morning, everybody would report with the earlier day's task. The task had to be completed. In between आप जाएंगे, अब रेस्टोरेंट में हुआ ये, अब हमारे यहाँ क्या कल्चर बन गया सरकार में कि आज देख लेना मैंने आज बच्चे की फीस जमा करानी है, तो आज की दिहाड़ी उसमें all these ingredients, I think biometrics, attendance, is all also going to be obsolete by 2047. So and it's going to happen because not that we would work for it, but it will happen in the natural course of the progression. And because it's going to be a global world, and once we have the global world, we have no option but to follow the global benchmarks. We'll have to live like this. And last but not the least, he pointed out very scientific projection of the old age population becoming higher in 2047. Rightly so, now we have 70% population below the age of 40, that time we'll have the reverse. But what we are not realizing today is that this is only half truth when we say India is a young nation today. Because the graph actually is biphasic, as a good student of science would say. On the one hand, the population of the young has become more than 70%. On the other hand, the old have not refused to live.
The very first civil service day happened in 1948, which was a test, but then this is a point in time, POPD was part of the Home Ministry. So ever since then, it has been regularly held every year. This time, unfortunately, because the COVID got interrupted for the last 2 years, but I am glad and proud to say that ever since Mr. Modi took over as the Prime Minister, 26th of May 2014, there has been a lot of change in the format of Civil Services Day as well as in the format of the PM Excellence Award, which is given on this day. For example, the Civil Services Day earlier used to be a brief affair, kind of a reunion of the officers, a kind of a fellowship, of course, which is equally important. But now it's also heavily accompanied with academic ingredient. We have different academic sessions split over different themes and sub-themes lasting for 2 days. A lot of introspection happening on the contemporary work, also on the flagship programs with the future perspective. Similarly, the PM Excellence Award was largely earlier based on the individual profile of the officers. Now it's based on the flagship program performance of the individual districts, as a result of which almost 700 odd, all the districts of the country are looking forward to participate in competing for these awards. And as far as the future introspection is concerned, this day today also becomes in 2022 important because we have embarked on preparing ourselves for 2047. How best to go about it in the next 25 years. We've already started a process of preparing a vision document. It's not easy to visualize 2047 through the prism of 2022, so you need to have scientific indices. So I'm sure this is going to open up the new vistas to actually make the best of the Amrit Mahakal, as Honorable Prime Minister has given us the call. There have been a number of revolutionary decisions taken, and as the Prime Minister always insists, reform, perform and transform. For example, there have been, this, as I was saying even in my speech, this is one government which will take pride in not framing new rules but doing away with the earlier rules. Nearly 1,500 rules have been done away, self-attestation done away with, interview done away with. Then we have even the PM Excellence Award given a new format. The National Recruitment Agency constituted. We are going to have combined eligibility test. The concept of assistant secretaries. Before they go to the individual state cadre, they spend 3 months a stint in the central secretariat. So all these revolutionary decisions were taken because Prime Minister allowed us to move ahead with an open mind, and if he was convinced about any unconventional decision, he would give us full support. Prime Minister from day one has been insisting on maximum governance, minimum government, which in other words means increased transparency, increased accountability, increased citizen centricity. And in days to come, the citizen participation is going to increase on its own as well. The artificial intelligence is also going to play an important part. So as we move on in the next 25 years, we'll have to prepare ourselves to accommodate the citizen partnership. The role of the civil servant also would get limited to an extent. Why would be better?
So the Cabinet Secretary was part of every selection.
So that is why I said the ribbon has biometric footprint of the
Yes. So, I'll just run you through very quickly, sir. This is the Meghalaya team, sir, 1970, 1917 I team, sir. This is the number. We started with. So please come, sir. The idea is bringing citizens and government closer. So we've had the National E-Governance Conference, sir, that is where we started. So you met the Namami Gange.
And we have covered virtually every part of it, beginning from the law.
Yes. Yes, this is the exclusive development for priority sector. So this is the the IDEX one that you had shortlisted. Then this is the technology center. Yesterday PM had visited, sir. This is the Vidya Samiksha Kendra. Knowledge has gone up, sir. Yes, sir. Gujarat. Yes, sir. This is the Gujarat one, sir. Yes, sir. कल लॉन्च हुआ सर, तो इसका नाम चेंज किया सर, विद्या समीक्षा केंद्र बना दिया सर इसमें. Otherwise it was the command control center. This greenhouse farming in Ladakh, sir, I'm going to get an award for. Then they are growing mushrooms and tomatoes in minus 30 degrees. Ladakh greenhouse. Then sir, then these are the innovations. Sir, this is this one, sir, migrant labor had gone on. Sir, this is the migrant labor one, sir, where West Champaran, sir. So migrant labor went and they got 25 lakhs loan लेके उन्होंने बनाया सर. This is an amazing initiative, sir. This is empowerment. Yes, sir. And इस साल ब्लैक राइस करने के लिए 15,000 हेक्टेयर का
ये सिक्किम.
Sir, this is the Uttar Pradesh one, sir, Udan.
This is Uttar Pradesh. This is Sikkim.
Ministry of Civil Aviation का है सर, ये जो नीचे वाला है.
ये गैंगटॉक सिक्किम.
Yes, sir. This is the Ministry of Civil Aviation. And one
ये ऑर्गेनिक वो तो नहीं था, ऑर्गेनिक स्टेट था.
One nation, one ration card, sir. So last year's innovation gold. Then this is Panchayati Raj elections in Jammu and Kashmir. So this was 2019.
First time.
First time.
Yes,
yes, sir. First time. 75%.
I could see one or two offices.
Yes, yes, sir. Sheetal Nanda has come. Then 800 online. So this is Khelo India, sir. This is a big initiative. Boxing coaching.